Hi, welcome to AgileTD After Work. Today we have Anna Bommas with us, and she's going to talk about accessibility. So, beyond regulations, the human side of accessibility. And we're very happy that she's here. I talked with her a little bit on the background, and she's not only here today at the Agile Testing Days After Work. So, you can see her also at the Agile Testing Days in 5 weeks, 6 weeks, more or less. So first, welcome, Anna.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
How are you?
I'm nervous, but I think it's going to be good.
This is always good to be a little bit nervous, of course. Like I said to you, I'm also always a little bit nervous. So you need that kind of nervosity to perform, or I think, but it's okay. So tell us, who are you?
I'm a software tester. It's actually been nearly 10 years already. I feel so
Wow,
old. And I've done accessibility for most of it, actually. I'm kind of like those niche testing things, also security, and did some Scrum mastering as well. I like to have different things going on, so it's not boring.
that's nice. And you are sitting in Munich today.
Yes.
That's very nice. So thanks so much for being there. I will put your presentation to the front, and I
Mhm.
will go to the back. And if you have questions, just please write the question in LinkedIn, and will appear here, and I can put on the stage for Anna. Okay. So thanks so much. Enjoy. I am in the back.
Thank you for coming to my talk, Beyond Regulations, the Human Side of Accessibility. First, a little bit about me. I already mentioned most of it. I didn't only test accessibility, I was also accessibility lead. So I have some experience in doing internal trainings on this topic. You can find me on LinkedIn, but I'm actually a little bit more active on different Slacks about testing and accessibility. So let's get into the topic. All those accessibility regulations, rules, and laws, they can all be very scary in the beginning. You know, what is it all about? What does it mean? And it can feel like you're lost in the regulation jungle. There are many different requirements, and you might not be sure, like, why are we doing it? How is it supposed to work? So let's find a way through. Don't be intimidated. I know it can be scary. I was in the same position in the beginning and I thought I'd never get where I am today, but it can be done, I promise you. Let's forget about all those regulations and laws for a moment and let's just focus on the heart of the matter, people. We are doing this for someone. So the question is, can all people use your product in their way? Did you think about everyone? And for this question, let's have a look at the people behind the requirements. I brought you some famous examples. So, for example, we have here blind influencer Molly Burke, who would really like to do some better online shopping, but has had a lot of problems with really bad alt text. Or Paralympian Matt Stutzman, who would probably access device differently as he has no arms. Or Shoshana Stern, who's a deaf actress who might need a transcript for a podcast. Or we have Whoopi Goldberg, who has dyslexia and is a really great example that most disabilities are not obviously visible. And you might actually know people that have disabilities, you just don't know it. Or you might not think about them in this way, because I'm really sure you know some elderly people, and with age, eyesight and hearing usually gets worse, and you might need glasses and hearing aids. So maybe just think about people around you, and it might also be very important for them. So behind every requirement is a face, a person whose experience improves when we care. Because this is not a talk about persona testing, which is also very interesting. We're going to have to come back to the regulations and connect them with the people. So I've brought you some examples of how I do it based on the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Lots of laws reference them, so it's rather common to be used. So when I connect stories to the success criteria, that's how I do it. Like, for example, if you take resize text, I think about my dad, who needs to have the text larger to be able to read it properly. And he still needs software to work that way and not stuff disappear off the screen. Or for use of color. Red-green color deficiency is rather common. I know several people that have it. So every time color pops up in a design, I think about them. And did we make it possible that you don't need to see color to have all the information? Or label in name. This one is something I'll not forget again after watching a training where a woman demonstrated how she uses Dragon Naturally Speaking to navigate her computer. It's an important point for voice navigation control, because if the visible label is not the label that is being given to the software, then you can't properly use it. And those are just a couple of examples. I could go through the whole success criteria list, but we don't have the time. I can just tell you it will get easier as you gain knowledge. A lot of trainings include personal stories from people. For example, the Introduction to Web Accessibility from W3C has loads of examples and people demonstrating their software, their barriers, and what helps them overcome them. A very important thing, though, when you're thinking in this way, is that you don't fall into the trap of thinking and deciding for people with disabilities. Because you might have an issue with something, like you might find that the screen reader takes too long to read it all, doesn't mean it's actually a problem for the real users, because all the screen reader users I know, they have their speed like turned up really high, and it's not going to be like when you just turn it on a couple of times a week for testing. So now we have the people, the rules, we've connected it, but we still need to find a way through the regulation jungle. So we need something to guide us. So how about a compass? This is a way I thought to present how I'm thinking while I'm doing my assessments. A quick assessment, just because if you need to do the full thing for audits, you will probably still need to fill out a voluntary product assessment template, short VPAT, and you can't really get away from the official checklists. But if you want to do a quick check, then I think this is a good technique. Just think about all the different senses and input methods and tools, and if they will work with your design. It doesn't even need to be like code. It can just be a sketch. So let's apply that. Let's try it out. I brought you an example. It's a part of a login page draft. So here we have a login field, a password field, and a button. And we're going to have a look if it's accessible. So first, let's start with vision. I think that one is always easiest to start with. And feel free to follow along and see if you can spot the problems as well. So first we have here a little bit of a contrast problem, as you might have noticed. Depending on your screen brightness, it might be really hard to spot the text on the button. And also the line for the outline for the login field is not really well visible. So let's change that. Let's improve the contrast. Way better. And then we have a second thing here, which is that there seems to be a problem with the password field, which is indicated by a red outline. The problem, though, is that the line is just the same as the other outline, so it's just the color. You can't really see that well. So let's first change that, make it more obvious, even if you don't see the color. And then let's make it even more obvious by adding text. So it's now clear what's going on, because just a thick outline might not be that clear. Now, this is just a short thing. We're not doing all the checks you could do, just to give you an overview. So we're going to go on to any motor barriers that might be in here. So you might see this question mark next to password, which can give you some hints about the field, and it's a little bit small. So it might be hard to properly click on it or hover on it when you have tremors. So let's make it a little bit bigger. And also very common with those on hover information fields is that they are not accessible through a keyboard. So let's make sure we think about that in the design. So it will also pop up on focus and not only on hover. We do not have any auditory content in here, so we can skip this check. We also don't have any speech input here. So let's get straight to any potential cognitive barriers. I always like to give this topic special attention after I attended a talk at XCon, where it was mentioned that the WCAG is still very focused on blind and low vision users, and not all the barriers that people with cognitive disabilities experience are properly covered in there. So let's look for any unclear text. You might have spotted login. Not really precise what we're supposed to put in this field. Is like the username, is it email, what do you want here? So let's make it more clear and change it to username. And then we also have the button, which is very unprecise, and it's just okay. It's not the action that happens when you click on it. So let's improve that and change it to login. Then we have the error message, which says field required, but it is better if it says which field is required. And then we also have improvement opportunities here that are not required to be done, but can be really helpful. We can add an icon to the error message to make sure, like, this message is about a problem. So this makes it more clear. And then something you might have seen all over the internet already, really popular and super helpful. As a person with a partially broken keyboard, I can tell you I'm using this a lot. It's the show password toggle, where you can show your password in clear text to check it before unnecessarily failing a login because you mistyped it. And so you can, the more knowledge you have, it's easier to spot when you're doing this, that there are things that might be nice to have. It's, of course, always important that you don't imagine they would be nice to have, but it's based on facts, and best would be user feedback that this would be really helpful. And lastly, we have tools. So if this is just a sketch, we can't really test it. But we can still highlight potential problems that are rather common and can often happen. So developers will take this into account when they actually turn the draft into software. So for example, it's very important that the field labels are actually connected to the field, because sometimes people think they're clever, and when the field doesn't have a name at all, they just add an additional name. So any checking software just doesn't report any problems anymore, but of course that's not the right thing. If you have a label and a field, connect them, because it's very important that what the user sees is actually the name, as I said with the label in name story. Otherwise, people using voice control software will have issues. As we added the password field required specification to the error message for people with cognitive disabilities, it's also super helpful if you're a blind screen reader user to make the connection between the error and the field. So it's not very strict, like in which category you're thinking about people, like whatever works best for you. So we're through now, so let's recap. This is what we started with, our first draft. And here we have our improved draft. And I can see very nicely how it's clearer now. So this method helped me remember the requirements by adding stories to them. It's a common memory technique, I think, to remember facts by adding stories. It can help you do a quick assessment, because you don't always have the time to do the full checklist, and sometimes people ask you for information on the spot. Very common in 3Amigo meetings, for example. You have like version A and B, and you're like, and they're suddenly like, Anna, which one's better? And then you need to do a quick check, and you can't just like pull out a checklist and try to make everything fit. It can help you highlight gaps in guidelines once you have a little bit more knowledge on the topic of what people would like to see and require and what hinders them. It always keeps the users at the center because you're coming at it from the users and not from rules, which also helps you add user impact. Because it's not just, we are failing success criterion ABC, who cares, we'll do it later. But now we're actually blocking our deaf users, and that's a problem. And with the storytelling, it can also help you spread awareness in your team, because you're always connecting bugs or gaps or features to stories. You're talking about who's impacted because we didn't do it correctly, who is it going to benefit if we fix this. And in this way, your whole team can learn. And that's really great. And that's my experience from that I had, and the feedback that I got from my old teammates. So this is why I wanted to share this technique with you. So learn from affected people, whether they're in your personal life or people online. Speak up for inclusion and bring others along the journey, because quality is a team thing. Accessibility starts with you. So thank you for coming to my talk. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I have a small accessibility request. Please tell me where you know me from, because I struggle to recognize faces and I'm not really great with names either.
Thanks so much. It was great.
Thanks.
Yeah. Are you still nervous?
No.
At some point, the university is gone, and
Yeah.
it was very nice. It was really very good. So I like it very much. So I see that there is no questions there. So it seems like you did everything very clear for the people. That's a good thing. Okay. Thanks so much for your work for the talk. It was amazing, and see you in few days at the Agile Testing Days.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me this platform, and
Yes, of
I'm
course.
happy to
I'm
do
happy.
another talk.
Yeah, thanks. And anytime, you're welcome. Thanks so much for being there. Okay, enjoy your day.